Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the London Legal Podcast in conjunction with Bloomsbury Institute London and their episode of their own podcast, The Letter of the Law. Today we've got a guest from Hodge Jones Allen Solicitors, a senior associate solicitor by the name of Ruchi Fowle, who's working in the personal injury team, and we're talking today about road traffic accidents as well as the personal injury law clinic. Alongside Ruchi as well, we've got a familiar voice to Bloomsbury Institute London audiences, Jawad, second year law student. So first let's turn to you, Ruchi. Could you just introduce yourself, please?
Hello, my name is Ruchi Fowle. I'm a solicitor at Hodge Jones Allen Solicitors. I've 25 years of experience of representing people who've been injured in road traffic accidents. So over the years I've represented clients who have been injured in a variety of different accidents on the roads. For example, a client who was driving his car and was hit by a runaway caravan, or a motorbike rider who was hit by an overtaking vehicle on the wrong side of the road, and also by a pedestrian who was hit while walking across a pedestrian crossing.
Thanks, Ruchi. And Jawad, for the audience listening to this through the Hodge Jones Allen Solicitors podcast, could you tell us all a bit more about yourself, your involvement with the clinic, etc.?
Good morning, beautiful people. My name is Mohammed Jawad. I'm a second year law student, and I'm also the student president of the Student Union of Bloomsbury Institute London. Recently, the head of our law school, she contacted us that there's an opportunity that the Bloomsbury Institute is collaborating with a very famous law firm. Everybody knows about Hodge Jones and Allen. So we all volunteered for it. And it's something I'm looking forward to.
Good. We'll learn a bit more about your association with the clinic throughout our conversation. Ruchi, now Hodge Jones Allen Solicitors, the firm has been on this show a few times beforehand. But if someone's just tuning in for the first time and they don't know a lot about Hodge Jones Allen Solicitors, could you tell us a bit more about the firm?
Yes, so Hodge Jones Allen was founded in 1977, and it has for the last 48 years helped thousands of people gain access to justice. Often Hodge Jones Allen will take on cases other firms of solicitors don't take, and we are not afraid of dealing with challenges to achieve the best results for our clients.
So let's dive a bit deeper into this specific collaboration, this personal injury law clinic between Hodge Jones Allen and Bloomsbury Institute London. And we'll also get thoughts from Jawad as well. But Ruchi, how did it all begin?
The partnership started in March 2025 when one of our partners, Daniel Denton, approached Bloomsbury Institute and asked them if Hodge Jones Allen could partner with Bloomsbury to run a remote personal injury clinic. Bloomsbury Institute was very interested in the idea, and Daniel organised a remote PowerPoint presentation to the Bloomsbury students. At the same time, we got together to draft an inquiry form for members of the public to complete, and then we set about promoting the project.
Thanks. And Jawad, question for you. From your perspective, why did you want to get involved with the clinic?
Well, for two reasons. First of all, it would help us a lot to gain some experience. And once you get done with your degree, it doesn't matter whichever route you take, either you become a barrister or the old school solicitor one. You need 2 years of qualifying work in order to qualify as a solicitor. And even if you become a barrister, that's something when you're getting into bar schools, they certainly look at. And the second one is from more of a moral perspective. One of the reasons I got enrolled in this degree, although I have a plan on pursuing corporate law, is that whenever I get the chance to represent somebody who's not that fortunate, what people call, I would love to. And this is something that holds certain personal sentimental value to me as well, like helping people who don't have the finances to fund these kind of stuff.
Thank you. And Ruchi, helping the local community is a very important aim of this partnership. Could you talk a bit more about why this partnership was set up, how it's going to benefit the local community, how it's going to benefit students? Could you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, so I think the three main areas of this partnership is to improve social justice, to develop students and to help the local community. So to improve access to justice, we're hoping to provide free confidential legal advice to members of the public on a range of issues, including personal injury law and road traffic accidents. For students, it's a good opportunity to gain practical hands-on experience designed to enhance their employability, just as Jarrod was explaining just now. And it also exposes students to real-life cases, bridging the gap between legal education and practical application. And finally, for the local community, it's hopeful that the partnership will have a positive impact on the local community by supporting individuals who are in need.
Thank you. So in a practical sense, let's say a member of the local community is listening to us right now, and they want to get involved with this law clinic. They want to make an inquiry. How exactly does that work?
It's quite straightforward. A member of public can complete the inquiry form, and then the student will arrange a 30-minute remote meeting either on Teams or on Zoom, which would allow the member of the public to obtain free legal advice on any personal injury claim. And after the meeting, the student will draft a letter of advice which will be sent to us at Hodge Jones Allen for checking, and the final version will then be sent to the client.
So that inquiry form, Ruchi, where can listeners find it if they want to get in touch?
Listeners can visit the Bloomsbury Institute London website, and the website address is www.bil.ac.uk. And to find the Law Clinic page, all you have to do is type in Bloomsbury Law Clinic to look up the Personal Injury Law Clinic page, and you'll find the inquiry form. Then they will need to fill in the details about what happened to them and provide their contact details, and they can get in touch with somebody from our team straight away.
Okay, excellent. Now, before we get into road traffic accidents in more detail, Jawad, quick question for you. How have you found the interaction between yourself and lawyers at Hodge Jones Allen?
Since the partnership?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've just filled out the forms and everything, and we've had like 2 sessions, and it was quite interesting. It's something that I'm looking forward to, but I do have a question for you. You said we would be helping local community. Do you have any rough idea of the amount of people this partnership could help? It has to be like a rough idea.
I'm not sure. Hopefully, the more people who are able to listen to this, the greater wide of range of people we can touch. And if they've been involved in an accident and need help, then hopefully they'll contact us through the clinic.
Okay,
Definitely, that's our aim. I mean, obviously, the letter of the law is going out live to a radio audience. Anyone listening to that can get in touch. But of course, through the podcast, whether it's online, whether through its social media, we've got a chance to tap into those audiences too. So the local community in Greater London can get hold of the messages that we're talking about in multiple ways. So, and we certainly hope they do. So Ruchi, let's deep dive now into our subject for today, which is road traffic accidents. Now, just to take a very broad view, what are the different types of road traffic accidents that can take place?
A road traffic accident occurs where a person has been involved in an accident involving a motorised vehicle. People can be injured in a road accident when they are a driver, a passenger or a pedestrian. They can be travelling in a motor vehicle or a motorcycle or riding a push bike. They could be hit by any type of motorised vehicle, and these days that could also include an electric scooter, which you see many around town all the time. Another type of accident is where a person is injured as a result of a motor vehicle defect, but these are quite rare. A person who is alleged to have caused the accident is called a defendant, and the person who was injured and who is bringing in the claim is called a claimant.
Okay, so let's say a road traffic accident has occurred. What are the immediate steps that would take in the aftermath of that accident?
Usually the police are called, and they take details and statements from those involved and obtain information from any witnesses. The police may also gather any CCTV footage or dashcam evidence from the scene of the accident. If the accident is minor, the parties involved may exchange their personal and insurance details between themselves without involving the police. If the injured person, the claimant, requires medical attention, an ambulance will be called and can take them to the local hospital. Sometimes, if the injuries are very severe or if they're life-threatening, a helicopter may attend to airlift the claimant to hospital. In the days following the accident, and as soon as possible afterwards, the claimant should report the accident to their insurance company. If the claimant has the details of the other party, then this will help their insurer lodge the claim with the defendant's representative. If the claimant doesn't have the details of the other party, they can provide the police reference, and their insurance company or their solicitor can then contact the police to obtain the defendant's details.
Now, when it comes to road traffic accidents, sadly two scenarios do tend to crop up. One would be if the defendant is uninsured, or it's a hit and run accident and they simply leave the scene of the accident. What happens if both of those situations occur, Ruchi?
These situations do occur, and they are quite common. So an instance where the defendant was driving a vehicle which wasn't insured, there's no details to pass on to the claimant's insurer. So in this case, the defendant is known as an uninsured driver. And the other scenario is, as you said, a hit-and-run accident where the defendant did not stop and didn't provide their details at the scene. In this case, the driver is known as an untraced driver. And in both cases, where the other driver was either uninsured or untraced, it is still possible to bring a claim for personal injury. The claim will be against the Motor Insurers Bureau, also known as the MIB, and the MIB will act as the insurer of the defendant and will pay compensation to the claimant.
So what exactly is the Motor Insurers Bureau?
They are an independent government body set up by the government and funded by other insurance companies. So they step into the shoes of the insurance company and take over the claim. So the claimant does get compensation at the end.
Okay. Now, road traffic accidents can take all sorts of forms. The injuries can be manifold. What are some of the common injuries that you've seen in your experience that arise from a road traffic accident?
Most common injuries are known as soft tissue injuries, and also this is another name for this is whiplash injuries. So these sort of injuries is damage to the muscles, ligaments or tendons in the neck, back, shoulder or any other body part. And these are commonly caused by the impact of the accident, and they result in symptoms such as pain, swelling, bruising and stiffness. Sometimes these symptoms of whiplash can resolve within a few weeks, but on other occasions it can take much longer and can have long-term effects. Then you have other types of injuries, including fractures to any part of the body, internal injuries or a head injury. And it's also very common for people to suffer from adverse psychological symptoms after being involved in a traumatic accident.
Thank you. Now, just to interject, we are here today as part of the Letter of the Law podcast through the Bloomsbury Institute London, as well as the London Legal podcast through Hodge Jones Allen Solicitors. We're speaking with Ruchi Fowle, a Senior Associate Solicitor from Hodge Jones Allen, and we're also delighted to have a student with us, Jawad, who will be very familiar to audiences of Bloomsbury Institute London. And going back to the accidents and the road traffic accidents, Ruchi, what should a claimant do if they are in pain from injuries that they've sustained during such an accident?
It's very important for a claimant to seek medical attention as soon as possible so that they can recover from their injuries as quickly as possible. Their GP could prescribe medication or refer them for physio, and then where the claimant is in significant pain, the GP could refer them on to a consultant at the hospital for treatment and management of the symptoms. Okay,
so let's say we've now arrived at the point where the accident has happened, a claimant is aggrieved, the situation has happened, they've had injuries, etc. They now want to embark upon making a personal injury claim. So what's involved in kick-starting that claim, Ruchi?
The burden of proof is on the claimant. So what this means is that they have to prove that not only did the other party cause the accident, but the injuries they sustained arose because of the accident. This first part is called liability. The claimant solicitor will send a letter of claim to the defendant's representative. The letter of claim will set out the details of the accident, the reasons why the defendant is to blame, the injuries the claimant has suffered, and also we would request any documents that we require if liability is disputed. And finally, we always request an admission of liability from the insurer. The defendant's insurer will have 3 months to investigate the accident and decide whether or not to admit liability. If they don't respond within this time, then we chase them until we hear back from them.
Sometimes we hear about a term called contributory negligence, or if someone is accusing someone else of having, contributed to their own injuries, perhaps. That term, contributory negligence, could you speak to that a bit more, help define it for our listeners?
Yes, the most common type of contributory negligence allegation is where a claimant is not wearing a seatbelt in a vehicle and was injured as a result of an accident. As they weren't wearing a seatbelt, this could result in a lower award of compensation. The defendant insurer will allege that had the claimant worn a seatbelt, his injuries would not have been as serious as they were. So in other words, the claimant may have contributed to his injuries by failing to wear a seatbelt. This is known as contributory negligence.
And on the insurance side of things, if the insurance company only partly admits liability, what happens then?
If liability is only admitted in part by the insurance company, then we would ask for reasons to explain why they feel that the claimant is partly to blame, and we'll also ask them for any documents they have in support of their allegations. If liability is fully in dispute, then we would have to reassess the evidence available to us to ensure that the claimant still has good prospects of over 50% of succeeding in their claim. If the case has at least 50% of prospects of success, then we would advise the claimant to carry on and proceed with their claim.
And what if the insurance company admits liability in full?
If liability is admitted in full or in part, then we would instruct our medical experts to examine the claimant. This is the second part of the burden of proof, where the claimant obtains medical evidence from independent medical experts to support their injuries. We would instruct a medical expert to examine the claimant and provide a report on their injuries. We always obtain the claimant's medical records from their GP, hospital, ambulance and any treatment providers such as physiotherapists. It is important that the independent medical expert has access to these records so that he has a full understanding of the claimant's pre-accident medical history and also what has happened to him since the accident. The expert's report will consider the injuries sustained and confirm if they were caused by the accident. The report will also consider any treatment or surgery which may assist the claimant in his recovery. Crucially, from our point of view, the report will also provide a prognosis of the injuries to state when the claimant had recovered from the injury or when he is likely to recover at some time in the future. This prognosis period is very important for us as it is used by the solicitors and all parties involved to put a value to the claimant's claim.
As a reminder to our listeners today, we're speaking with Ruchi Fowle, Senior Associate Solicitor at Hodge Jones Allen, and she's talking about road traffic accidents in the context of the Personal Injury Law Clinic. If you'd like to learn more about the Bloomsbury Institute Law Clinic, please visit the Bloomsbury Institute London website, and in the search engine function, simply look up Bloomsbury Law Clinic. You'll then head through to the page which has information all about the personal injury clinic that we're talking about today. And if you're listening to this conversation right now and you'd like to potentially make an inquiry and learn more, you can get in touch through three ways. There's the inquiry form on the web page that I've just mentioned. You can call us, that's Hodge Jones and Allen Solicitors, on 03 300 294 446, or you can simply email on bilradio, all one word, at hja.net. So we have a question from Jawad.
You said that when deciding whether to take a case forward or not, you look at the success rate. What factors are considered while assessing that rate, apart from medical evidence? Do you take other things into consideration as well, and to what extent?
That's a very good question. We have to look at the case as a whole. So the first point of information we look at is it likely that the claimant will succeed in the liability part of the claim? So is it more likely than not that the claimant was not responsible for the accident, or if he was maybe partly responsible, we could still continue? If the evidence suggests that the defendant was responsible in part or full, then the claimant has a good chance of being successful. So we would say that the prospects of success are over 50% in that case, and we would proceed on that basis.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Before Jawad's question, we were just talking about the position with regards to insurance companies and admission of liability. Ruchi, now let's turn to a situation where the claimant has sustained out-of-pocket expenses as a result of their injuries from the road traffic accident. Can you recover those out-of-pocket expenses from the defendant?
Yes, you can. Examples of out-of-pocket expenses include the cost of travelling to treatment appointments, loss of earnings for not being able to work because of the injuries, or prescription charges you've incurred, any damage to clothing or property, and any care and assistance provided by friends and family because you weren't able to carry out your normal duties. These are just some examples of out-of-pocket expenses, but there are various other losses which are dependent on the claimant's particular circumstances. A claimant will have to prove his out-of-pocket expenses to be able to recover them. This is why we advise that a claimant should keep all receipts and evidence of expenses incurred so that they can be included in his claim.
And how do you settle a claim for the claimant?
The claimant's claim is made up of two parts. The first is known as general damages, and this is the pain, suffering and loss of immunity suffered by the claimant because of the injuries. The second is known as special damages, and this is the claimant's out-of-pocket expenses, which I just discussed. Both general damages and special damages are added together to give one figure. It is then a process of negotiating a settlement with the defendant's representative. It is possible to disclose all the evidence to the defendant's representative and invite an offer of settlement. Alternatively, the claimant's solicitor can put forward an offer to settle to the defendant. If the parties are able to reach a settlement through negotiation, then this will be the end of the case. The defendant's representative will make payment of the compensation to the claimant and the claim will conclude. The claimant will not be able to reopen his case after settlement to seek additional compensation. And the other situation is where parties are unable to reach a settlement, then it will be necessary to commence court proceedings.
Thank you. So those court proceedings now, it's a subject to which we'll turn. So the court process, as it concerns road traffic accidents, how does a court deal with such claims?
The court system is set up to deal with claims based on their value. A claim which is valued up to £5,000 is known as a small claim. The small claims process is straightforward and is done through the government portal called the Official Injury Claim Portal, which is an online service for claimants to make their claim without the need for representation from a solicitor. And for claims valued between £5,000 and £25,000, claimants should be represented by a solicitor. The solicitor will submit the claimant's claim on the online portal known as the MOJ portal. Such claims are called fast-track claims. The solicitor will guide the claimant through the process and negotiate settlement with the defendant's representative.
And if there are more complicated claims and the claim's value is much, much higher, what's the situation then?
For claims valued between £25,000 and £100,000, the government has recently created a new track called the intermediate track. These are for cases valued up to a maximum of £100,000, and they must be not overly complex, and they shouldn't involve several independent experts. For a claim valued over £100,000, this is known as a multi-track claim. Such claims can be complex, involving complicated issues. They may require more extensive use of independent experts, and the trial duration may be longer than a fast-track or intermediate track case.
And the whole process of going into court, and if a case does actually make it to court, does that mean that the claimant and defendants will end up at a hearing before a judge?
No, not at all. The process is to attempt to settle the case without recourse to a hearing before a judge, and this is because it's in the party's best interest not to go before a judge, as it is too unpredictable. It is not known how a judge would react to the evidence before him, and it may be a case he prefers one party's evidence over the other party's.
So just to recap, we're here today and we are speaking on a podcast through the Letter of the Law, through Bloomsbury Institute London. We're also distributing this podcast conversation through the London Legal Podcast, through Hodge Jones Allen solicitors. And the subject today is road traffic accidents, because we're talking about the Personal Injury Law Clinic. To find out more about that Personal Injury Law Clinic, you simply have to head over to the Bloomsbury Institute Law Clinic website. So the way you get to that is by going straight to the Bloomsbury Institute London website, which is www.bil.ac.uk, and through the search engine function, you look up the personal injury law clinic by typing in Bloomsbury Law Clinic. Of course, you can do this through Google as well, and you'll get through to the same page. And if you actually want to make an inquiry, there's an inquiry form on that page which you're encouraged to fill in, and it will go straight through to someone who can then deal with that and ensure that it ends up on the desk of a solicitor who can consider its merits. You can also get in touch via telephone, and the dedicated number is 033 00 294 446. Of course, there's email as well, bilradio, all one word, at hjA.net. So Ruchi, we've been speaking about the whole experience of what a road traffic accident means, the definition, the types of road traffic accidents, the type of injuries that can take place, how insurers deal with a potential claim that's being made, the court process, the claims value and the different tracks that such a claim would go through, whether it's a small claim, whether it's a fast-track claim, or whether it goes through a multi-track claim if the value is far higher. If someone's listening to this conversation today, Ruchi, and they've experienced an RTA themselves, or they know someone who has, what would your advice be to them?
If someone is involved in a road traffic accident, then I would recommend that they take down the registration number of the other vehicle, take photos of both vehicles, and they should always call the police. And if the person has suffered injuries, then they should seek medical attention as soon as possible from a GP. And where there are serious injuries, for example, a head injury or fractures, then they need to be taken by ambulance to A&E or attend themselves as soon as they can to seek the appropriate medical advice.
And we are now reaching the end of the conversation, but again, members of the public will be listening to this, thinking about getting in touch with us about the Personal Injury Law Clinic. And Jawad, I'll also bring you in to this question after I speak to Ruchi. But Ruchi, can you just reiterate the exact benefits to the local community, to members of the public, if they were to get in touch with us through this PI clinic?
Yes. So the most important benefit to members of the public is that the clinic allows people to obtain access to justice irrelevant of their financial position, and also they have the benefit of specialist advice from a qualified lawyer with many years of experience. And the main helpful point, I would say, is that this takes place within a friendly and informal environment. So, as we've already advised you, the details for contacting the clinic have been provided to you. And if you want to learn more about what I do, then you could look at my profile on the HJA website. And that address is www.hjA.net. And you can look at my profile there. Thank you very much.
So that's Ruchi Fowle. If you visit www.hjA.net, you can search for Ruchi Fowle and find out all about her experience, the cases she deals with. Jawad, I just wanted to ask a question to you. Ruchi just spoke about members of the public and the benefit of the PI clinic to them. Of course, the PI clinic itself can provide immeasurable benefits to students, and we want to get more students involved. Whether it's through the rest of 2025, but particularly into next year. What would your message be to your fellow students who are listening to this, who are thinking about potentially getting in touch and participating in this initiative?
I think this is an excellent opportunity for them to polish their skills, but at the same time, this is something, since the start we've been taught that you should return to the public, and I believe in that. And I believe that if you help other people, you'll receive help in a number of different ways. People usually say God's works. So I would also ask them to volunteer for it. And I also do have a question, just out of curiosity. Does mental stress come under the umbrella of personal injury? Or is it just physical injuries suffered?
No, absolutely. Mental or psychological stress is a recognised symptom caused by a traumatic road traffic accident. So it could be something like travel anxiety or post-traumatic stress disorder, which is much more serious. But these sort of psychological symptoms are most certainly taken into account for somebody who's been involved in an accident.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And Ruchi, just in case someone has just tuned in for the last 5 minutes of this show and they want to make an inquiry, get in touch with the Personal Injury Law Clinic, what do they have to do? Who do they have to call? Who do they have to email?
It's very straightforward. So the phone number is 03300 294 446. The email address is bilradio, or one word, at hjA.net. And there's also the inquiry form on the Bloomsbury Law Clinic website.
Exactly, and that's, we're going to say it again, www.bil.ac.uk. Look up Bloomsbury Law Clinic in the search engine function and you'll get through to the Personal Injury Law Clinic website page where you can complete an inquiry form. So we've been speaking with Ruchi Fowle, Senior Associate at Hodge Jones Allen Solicitors, and Jawad as well, second year law student at Bloomsbury. Thank you very much for listening, and please share, like, comment this and share this entire conversation through all your channels. Thanks very much again.